Hey guys, today we're going to talk about a framework that I use in order to evaluate future performance of a business. Now, this is something that I sort of think about it. This is sort of a macro view. We're not going to get deep into the analysis or anything like that, but this is something that I definitely use when I'm, buying a business outright, but I also use this most heavily when I'm doing what I call fractional acquisitions. In other words, like minority plays, investing in other teams and all the rest of it. So this will work if you're doing a full outright acquisition and in putting a team in place, or if you're making an investment into a different company that you're trying to evaluate how it's going to perform. My name is Walker Deibel. I am the Wall Street Journal bestselling author of Buy Then Build, creator of the Elite Accelerator Acquisition Lab. So listen, I've done a number of acquisitions in my life, and I bought 7 companies over 10 years. I've been buying companies for 18 years. And so it's one of these where, the first thing that I'm always going to look at, okay, is kind of like the offering of this business, right? Offering. And what that means is, what's the product or service that this business is kind of taking to market? And what I'm looking for is usually not like, I don't want anything like, the sexier things are, the more likely they don't have, an existing product market fit, right? So I just look for, something that I consider like pretty vanilla, but with a twist, right? So I wanted to have some kind of, differentiator, right, from the rest of the market. Okay, so I'm looking for, a pretty stable offering with a little, je ne sais quoi. And then the sort of opposite of this that supports this offering is kind of, I kind of hinted at it already. It's sort of like existing demand, okay? If there's no existing demand and we have to go create the market, that's not something that I absolutely like at all, right? I mean, I spent, probably the first 20 years of my career in a world where entrepreneurship was defined by, real sexy startups and all the rest of it. And along the way, I just sort of said like, I think cash flow is more attractive than, trying to transform the world, because if I have enough cash flow, I can transform the world on my own. And, a lot of these, like for example, let's use NVIDIA. NVIDIA's like what? The biggest company in the world right now. It's like number 3 highest, and I think that it's one of these where if you had invested in NVIDIA 25 years ago, you're too early. Today, there's an insatiable demand, and that's why it's very much on trend, right? So they've got a great offer. They stand out in the market. And then you've got over here with existing demand. Next is going to be, I'll go ahead and call it team. And what I mean by that is, who is actually executing this? If I'm buying a company myself, I know that I'm putting myself in there as CEO of the company, and I'm going to be the one, kind of responsible for guiding it to where it's trying to go. But if I'm making a fractional acquisition in something else, or I'm putting a team in place, who the team is maybe the most important part of the whole thing, right? I mean, you got to have all this stuff, but you got to have the team that's going to be able to execute it. And the way that I think about that is like, are they on, quote, the list, right? And what I mean by that is, is this person, like, does their resume allow for them to be on the list of people that are allowed to execute this, right? They don't have to be someone that has done exactly the same thing in the past, but like, if they're an up and comer and they're about to be able to, do this, but it's, if they've got that, momentum and all the rest of it, but it's like if you want the person that's allowed to do it. In other words, a quick side note, when I wrote Buy Then Build, right, I got the original idea back in 2003, 2004 when I started my first search. There was no information on buying these small companies. Now, I'm like, here's a whole entire capital market with like no information. Like it's opaque, it's fragmented, like there's no best practices, there's no frameworks. Like how am I supposed to navigate this? And I thought about writing a book, but I realized at that time that if I had written a book, I would have been like the intern interviewing people who had done it, and sort of, it would have helped my career go from level 1 to level 2, but I wasn't on the list of people that were sort of allowed to write the book that kind of, could introduce this whole space to all entrepreneurs everywhere. In 2018, Buy Then Build came out after I had put in my entire net worth probably 3-4 times in order to do it. I had a couple of successful exits, had taught entrepreneurship through acquisition at the Owen School of Business. And so, it was sort of like I was now allowed to actually write it, which I did. And after 4.5 years of my entire net worth in 2 decades, we have this book. Okay, so I look for the team, okay, like who's gonna do it, right? When I bought a manufacturing company and I put an operator in, I got probably one of the top 3, aluminum fabricating executives, in the country, right? And so that was a big part of knowing that we were gonna have the confidence in order to execute on the plan that we were working towards. So the other one over here is, it's kind of like momentum. Momentum. And there's a lot of things that this could mean, but what I always really like to see, especially in fractional acquisitions, is something that I call predictable transformation, right? So in other words, if we're going to market, or we're at market, or we're trying to scale a market with some kind of plain vanilla offering, something that I look at and I understand intimately what it is quickly, but it's got a twist, right? Like a little something, je ne sais quoi, that's what I look for is is this existing demand feeding into some kind of, predictable transformation, okay? When I made an investment into a video game development company, one of the things that I looked at was, okay, what is the existing demand? But then in other words, what is the transformation occurring in the industry? And what I saw was that the video game industry is actually still in the early stages of adoption by consumers, and it's already larger than the entire film, television, and music industries combined. And it's continuing to go that way. So it's sort of looking for those trends and then looking for the team and the company that has momentum in that space in order to get it done, right? And the last one, this seems obvious to so many people, but the thing is so many people miss it, which is, you have to look at the capital and understand, is this company going to be able to, does it have enough capital to get to the milestone that it's trying to get to? Is it going to, fizzle out because whatever it is they're trying to build, they're not going to quite get there, right? In terms of, what that milestone is. And the opposite of this, and this is sort of like the ultimate bottom line, right, is how do I make money, okay? How do I make money? Almost falling off the screen, but it's still in there. So the point is a lot of people will sometimes, this is crazy, but people will get into, a fractional acquisition, okay? Or they'll buy a company outright without thinking about the exit, okay? Especially if I'm making a fractional acquisition, I'm trying to figure out when and how exactly do I make money, and what are the things that need to occur in order for that to be true, right? And so by doing this, I'm able to figure out, is this going to be a good investment? If you read Buy Then Build, obviously I go into, ROI, margin of safety, and upside potential. And so ultimately, guys, this is sort of the high level, 3-sided framework that I use to evaluate these fractional investments. Look, I am doing one of the most ambitious things I think I've ever done in my life, and that is I'm starting a private equity firm. It ultimately is around allowing normal accredited investors access to deals that they can't necessarily get to otherwise, right? And so after inviting my community to invest in a deal I was investing in about four or 5 months ago, we oversubscribed the capital raise by 3 times in 4 hours. And that's when I knew, that our community has, at least a little bit of a desire for access to the things that I'm investing in. And so I thought it would be really cool to go find deals that I want to invest in, that I can bring to the community. And then we together, can create a force of investment and change for the companies that really are sort of, hopefully a just add money kind of recipe. Listen, I've been looking all over for what I want my first deal to be. The timeline isn't going to make sense, but I've actually already been looking for it for a year. And the one that I sent out 4 or 5 months ago was actually a test, just to sort of test the market and see if you guys want to invest with me. I made an investment earlier this year after months of evaluation and analysis of a little over $100,000. That trade is already up over 50% on paper. The thing is I actually think two things. One, this is just the beginning of what this company has the potential to do. It's one of the tightest deals I think I've ever seen. I want you to see it, even if you don't want to invest. I want you to see what a great deal looks like. And so the thing is on July 11th, Thursday, July 11th, I am holding an event at West Coast Finance in Carlsbad, California, with Oren Klaff, best-selling author Oren Klaff. So it's Walker Deibel, Oren Klaff. We're both doing a presentation just for education and how we think about, investing and business building and all the rest of it. And then at the end, I'm going to actually reveal and share the first investment opportunity for our group. Okay, so we hope to see you there. Let's go ahead and get a registration link below in case you want to see it. If the event has already happened and you missed it, sorry, but we will get replays up, onto YouTube or somewhere on my website, and we'll put those links also in the show notes, okay? If you're looking to buy a business anytime in the next 1 to 24 months, we built the Elite Accelerator Acquisition Lab, where we anchor in world-class education, create a vetted community, have tools, resources, all the rest of it, and have 14 coaches on staff to allow for that diamond coaching that will help you navigate your way all the way to buying a company outright so that you too can reap the benefits of acquisition entrepreneurship. We'll see you on the inside.